In front of the entire school, I set fire to my own painting that was about to enter the competition. The audience erupted in thunderous applause, assuming this was some kind of performance art, but my graduate senior Olivia panicked. She rushed over and grabbed my hand, her voice shrill. Aria, have you lost your mind? This was your only chance at the gold medal. I coldly shook her off. Chance, more like her chance, right? In my previous life, it was this very painting, which I had poured my heart and soul into, that she stole and submitted to the competition. The composition, color stole and submitted to the competition, and even my original point dyeing technique were identical down to the last detail. She won the National Young Artist Gold Medal, signed with a top gallery, and basked in endless glory while I became universally despised as a shameless plagiarist. I was drowned in abuse and curses. Get out of the art world, plagiarists like you should just die. Her fans stormed into my studio, smashed my art supplies, and broke my right hand. In utter despair, I jumped from the roof of the studio building. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day Olivia accused me of plagiarism. Aria, what are you spacing out for? The studio door burst open as my best friend Zoe rushed in, waving her phone. I snapped my eyes open, taking in the familiar easel and the unfinished graduation piece resting on it. I had been reborn to the day before Olivia plagiarized my graduation work and publicly exhibited it. Quick, look at the school forum. That green tea bitch Olivia is stirring up trouble again. My gaze fell on Zoe's phone screen. The pinned post had an eye-catching title. To all fellow art lovers, when your closest junior steals your inspiration, where do you go from here? In the post, without naming names, she told the story of a hardworking senior whose work was shamelessly copied by a genius junior. Even without explicitly stating who the genius junior was, everyone knew it was me. I was the art prodigy of our year, hailed as a genius since enrollment. Olivia had even included comparison images in her post. One was her so-called competition entry, and the other was the archive of my graduation piece that I had only submitted to the school database yesterday. The composition, colors, brushstrokes, and even the innovative point dyeing technique I had only first proposed in my graduation thesis. Everything was identical. It wasn't just similar, it was an exact copy. The comments section below had exploded. I always thought something was off about that Aria, acting all high and mighty. Turns out she's just a plagiarist. So much for being an art prodigy. She probably just had some shady deal with the training school teachers. Olivia is too kind. If it were me, I'd report her and get her expelled. Poor Olivia, sending hugs. People like this are a disgrace to the art world. They should just get out. The familiar words pierced my heart like poison daggers. In my previous life, it was this very post that sent my life spiraling into an endless hell. I was vilified by thousands and investigated by the school. Professor Bennett's gaze changed from initial admiration to utter disappointment. Meanwhile, Olivia climbed higher by stepping on my corpse. She won the National Young Artist Gold Medal with my painting, signed with a top gallery, and enjoyed limitless glory. I was nailed to the pillar of shame for plagiarism and finally jumped from the roof of this very studio. Looking at Olivia's innocent face on the phone screen, I slowly clenched my fist, seeing my expression change. Zoe was on the verge of tears. Aria, say something. Let's go to the professor right now and show her all your drafts and evidence. We can't let Olivia bully you like this. Evidence. In my previous life, I had presented all the evidence, from my initial inspiration notes to every compositional sketch to detailed technical analysis, but it was useless. Olivia always managed to produce even earlier evidence. She could even articulate my creative concepts eloquently before I did. Aria, Zoe shook me anxiously. I looked up and gave her a reassuring smile. Don't worry, Zoe, this time. I was determined to find out how she did it. Zoe and I walked towards the school's art gallery. From a distance, we could see Olivia standing in front of the painting, surrounded by Professor Bennett and several other faculty members. She was passionately explaining her creative concept, so I used the point dyeing technique here to represent the moment when light and shadow break apart and recombine, symbolizing hope in the midst of despair. Her words matched my written explanation verbatim. The surrounding professors nodded in approval, their eyes full of admiration. This girl Olivia not only has talent but also works hard. Indeed, the depth of thought in this painting surpasses many of her peers. My arrival disrupted the harmonious scene. All eyes turned to me, and whispers broke out. She has the nerve to show up. Look at her expression, not a hint of remorse. Seeing me, Olivia immediately stopped her explanation, her face showing surprise and sadness. Junior Aria, you're here. She walked over, her eyes instantly reddening. I know you're talented and really wanted to make a breakthrough with your graduation piece, but you can't just plagiarize. If you had talked to me earlier, I could have helped you. Her words sounded sincere, portraying herself as a betrayed yet still kind and forgiving victim. Professor Bennett looked at me with disappointment in her eyes. Aria, you may be naturally gifted, but that doesn't mean you can take shortcuts. What's this about? Have all the praises gone to your head? I remember you saying your dream was to hold a solo exhibition. Is this the kind of plagiarized work you want to exhibit? She glanced at me, her tone full of frustration. How many talented people have wasted their potential by not putting in the effort later on? Do you want to become another example of wasted talent? I looked at Olivia, who was smugly watching me, all traces of her previous pitiful act gone, but I ignored both the professor and Olivia. In my previous life, I would have been angry, argued, and become hysterical, but now, I wouldn't foolishly try to prove my innocence again. Zoe still wanted to speak up for me, but I held her back, shaking my head at her. We left the gallery, with Zoe fretting anxiously by my side. I assured her I was fine and sent her on her way. Back in my studio, I began to reflect on the whole incident, and formed some suspicions. I locked all the doors and windows of the studio, drew the thickest blackout curtains, and even found a roll of packing tape to seal all the gaps. Then, I set up my easel and began to create. I painted quickly, completing the work in 2 hours. I didn't leave the studio to prevent Olivia from sneaking in to take photos. Early the next morning, I checked my phone. Olivia had updated her Snapchat status at 4 a.m. It was an identical inspirational sketch with core elements and techniques completely in my style. The caption read, "Pulled an all-nighter painting. Felt like I was going to die, but glad the result is satisfying. Good night, world." Below were rows of likes and comments like, "Senior, you worked so hard, and even geniuses need to put in effort." I frowned. If no one had broken into the studio, then what could it be? Could there be hidden cameras in the studio? I bought a professional signal detector online and carefully checked every corner of the studio, even every suck it, the result was nothing, but to be safe I packed up my art supplies and took a cab to a paid study room far from the school. I chose a fully enclosed private room, ensuring there couldn't possibly be any pre-installed monitoring devices. This time I painted a still life titled Broken Plaster Statue. I deliberately used some unconventional color choices and light shadow treatments, ideas I had only recently come up with and never mentioned to anyone. After finishing, I didn't take it with me but locked it in the study room's storage locker. However, that very night, in an art group chat full of industry bigwigs, Olivia posted a more refined version of the same themed painting under the guise of seeking advice. It was exactly Broken Plaster Statue. She posted the image even half an hour before I had finished my painting. The bigwigs in the group lavished praise on her, complimenting her bold ideas and mature techniques. A few sharp-eyed ones recognized my signature style and began to whisper, "This style, doesn't it look a bit like that Aria from the art school?" It does look similar, but Olivia's version is more refined and the concept more mature. Guess Aria is copying Olivia again. She does have a history of it. Young people these days always looking for shortcuts. I was even more confused and bewildered. How exactly was Olivia stealing my work? Sitting alone in the empty studio, I reviewed the entire incident. Physical isolation was ineffective. Signal blocking was ineffective. This almost ruled out all conventional methods of theft. I recalled the interviews Olivia gave after winning the gold medal in my previous life. She spoke eloquently, but whenever asked about the details of her creative process and inner journey, her answers always seemed hollow and superficial, like a poor actor reciting lines that didn't belong to her. Back then, I just thought she wasn't good at expressing herself. Now I realize perhaps she simply didn't know what to say, because she only had the result, not the process. A somewhat absurd idea formed in my mind. I messaged Zoe, sharing my thoughts with her, and then began to implement my plan. I sat in front of the easel, but didn't take out my brushes or set up a canvas. I just closed my eyes and began to conceptualize a painting in my mind. I envisioned a black cat crouching on a windowsill, with a gloomy sky threatening rain behind it, and lightning breaking through the clouds in the distance. The overall tone of the image was somber, full of tension. In my mind, I also added a unique emerald green color to the cat